All right, everyone, get ready, because today we're going to be diving deep into something that's pretty massive.
Yeah, really big.
Canada's brand new open work permit policy for foreign workers.
Mm-hmm.
So all our info is coming from this great YouTube video from the Canada PR channel.
Okay.
It's called 2025 IRCC Open Work Permit Policy, a complete guide Canada work permit.
Catchy title.
So if you're even a little bit interested in working in Canada, this deep dive is going to be for you.
Definitely.
It's kind of like your cheat sheet to see if this policy could be your ticket into the Great White North.
Oh, yeah. And I think what makes this policy so interesting and exciting is just how big it is. It really seems like Canada's just opening up its doors to people from all over the world.
Okay, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's back up for a sec.
Okay.
For those who might be new to all of this, what exactly ISS an open work permit, and how is it different from a regular work permit?
Right.
It's not like they just hand these out at Tim Hortons, right?
No,
Yeah.
definitely not. You can think of a regular work permit as like a one-way ticket to a specific job with a specific employer,
Okay.
whereas an open work permit is kind of like an all-access pass.
Interesting.
Yeah, it lets you work for pretty much any employer in Canada,
Wow.
which gives you so much freedom to explore different roles and different industries.
So you're not tied down to one company or even one career path.
Exactly.
That's incredible, especially if you're new to Canada and you kind of want to test the waters a bit before really committing to a specific field.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the catch. There's a ticking clock on this new policy.
Mm-hmm.
It's only in effect until December 31st, 2024.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a window of opportunity here. So if you're really thinking about making a move, you need to act quickly.
Absolutely.
And here's another exciting piece. This new policy actually allows eligible people to get an open work permit valid for up to 2 years.
Wow.
That's a long time to gain valuable Canadian work experience, build your network, and potentially even set yourself up for permanent residency in the future.
2 years is a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm guessing not everyone qualifies for this.
Right.
Who exactly is eligible for this open work permit gold rush?
Well, you might be surprised by how inclusive this policy actually is.
Okay.
It's not just for newcomers. Even if your current work permit expired after May 7th, 2024, you're still eligible.
Hold on. So even if my work permit's expired already, I might still be eligible.
Yes.
That's fantastic news for those who might have been feeling a bit stuck.
It is. It's great news. Canada is really recognizing the contributions of people who are already living in the country and offering them a way to stay and keep building their careers here.
Okay, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But it can't just be for people with expired permits. Who else can throw their hat in the ring for this?
Well, the policy also covers people with pending applications or requests to restore their status.
Okay.
So, if someone had to leave Canada for a little while, but now they want to come back, and get this, even people with a job offer A&D support from a provincial nominee program can apply.
Wait, back up a second. Provincial nominee program.
Yeah.
You're going to break that down. For me, it sounds kind of intimidating.
Sure, no worries. It's actually not as complicated as it sounds.
Okay.
So think about it this way. Each Canadian province has its own little mini immigration program,
Okay.
which lets them target specific skills and jobs that are in high demand in that province.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you have a job offer from a Canadian employer and the province where that job is located nominates you, you're good to go.
So it's like getting a double thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly.
One from the employer and one from the province. Talk about feeling welcome.
Right.
I'm really starting to see why this policy is making such a big splash.
Yeah, it's really a win-win situation.
Mhm.
Canada gets the skilled workers it needs, and individuals and families get a real chance to build a new life in a welcoming and diverse country.
Absolutely.
But getting a job offer and a provincial nomination isn't exactly a walk in the park.
Right.
I'm guessing there are a few hoops to jump through?
For sure. Let's talk about the application process itself.
Okay.
Is it a mountain of paperwork, or have they streamlined things a bit?
Yeah.
Because honestly, nobody likes dealing with a ton of bureaucracy.
No, nobody does, but I think you'll be happy to hear that Canada's really embraced the digital age here.
Okay.
The whole application process is online,
Thumbs up.
so you can say goodbye to all those paper forms.
That's great news.
Yeah, it's all about making things easier and more convenient. But there is one really important detail that people sometimes miss. You absolutely have to stay in Canada while your application's being processed
Okay.
to keep your temporary resident status.
Got it.
So no quick trips back home while you're waiting.
No island vacations while your application's in limbo?
Exactly.
I guess that makes sense. But let's say you are committed to staying put in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
What documents do you need to have ready when you apply?
The essentials are pretty straightforward. Your passport, a recent digital photo, a copy of your current OR expired work permit.
Okay.
Even an expired one works in this case.
hmm
Interesting.
And a letter of employment from a real Canadian employer.
Okay, so far so good. Seems pretty simple.
Hmm.
But I have a feeling there might be a few more details lurking beneath the surface.
Right.
Fill us in. What else should people know about?
Yeah, you're right. There are a couple more things to think about.
Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier, if you're applying through a provincial nominee program, you'll need a support letter from that province or territory.
Right.
And depending on your specific situation, they might ask for some other documents too. It's always a good idea to check the IRCC website for the most up-to-date requirements, just to be on the safe side.
Good point. Always double check.
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about everyone's least favorite topic.
Oh,
Just kidding. But it's your important information to have fees.
yes.
What's the damage?
So this is super important for budgeting and planning.
Mm-hmm.
Let's break it down. The standard work permit application fee is $155.
Okay.
If you're applying to restore your status, it goes up to $229.
And then there's an $85 biometric fee for anyone who needs to give fingerprints and photos, which is pretty standard nowadays.
Yeah, makes sense. So factor those costs into your plans, everyone. It's an investment in your future, after all.
Absolutely.
But you know what? There's a silver lining here that I think is pretty amazing.
Okay.
This policy isn't just about you, it's about your family, too.
Yes. This is where things get really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a solo mission. If you get your work permit approved, your spouse or common law partner can also apply for an open work permit.
Wait a minute. So both partners can potentially work.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's double the income, double the opportunities, double the fun exploring Canada together.
Exactly.
I love it.
It's a real game changer for families.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, there's even more good news.
Okay, lay it on me.
Dependent children in K-12 can actually go to school in Canada without needing a separate study permit.
Wow.
Talk about a huge relief for parents.
They really have thought of everything. No more scrambling for extra paperwork or stressing about school applications for the kids. This policy is sounding more and more like a dream come true for families.
It really is. It's all about creating a welcoming environment for everyone.
Absolutely.
But before we get too carried away, there are a few little nuances and additional details we need to talk about.
Hold that thought. Don't go anywhere, because in part 2 of this deep dive, we'll be unpacking even more about this game-changing policy.
That's right.
We'll get into all the nitty-gritty details of the application process, address some common concerns, and even explore how this policy compares to similar ones in other countries.
It'll be good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Canada's new open work permit policy.
You know, as we're talking about this, I'm really struck by how much this new policy really reflects Canada's commitment to diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, it's true. By opening its doors to skilled workers from all over the world, Canada is not only strengthening its workforce, but also building a more vibrant and multicultural society.
Absolutely. It creates a ripple effect of positive change that benefits everyone in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where were we? Yes. Let's talk about the validity of the open work permit.
Okay.
So we know it's like this golden ticket. But how long does it actually last?
So typically an open work permit under this new policy is valid for up to 2 years.
Okay.
But here's the catch. It can't be valid for longer than your passport.
Right.
So if your passport's set to expire in a year, your work permit's going to have the same expiry date.
That makes sense. It's all about making sure everything's aligned properly.
Yeah, exactly.
So before you even think about applying, everyone grab your passport and double check that expiry date.
Yes, I can't stress that enough. It would be such a shame to miss out on potential work time just because of an expired passport.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on, I actually wanted to touch on something we brought up a little earlier about how this new policy stacks up against similar programs in other countries.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how Canada's approach compares to, say, Australia or the UK.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what's really unique about Canada's approach, I think, is the emphasis on family benefits.
No.
A lot of countries offer work permits for skilled workers, but Canada goes a step further by making it easier for spouses and children to come along too.
Right.
This whole family-centric approach, I think, makes Canada really appealing for families who are looking to relocate together.
Yeah, that focus on families is definitely a major selling point for Canada.
For sure.
Okay, so let's zoom back in on those family benefits for a minute. I know we touched on them briefly, but I think they're worth unpacking a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. So we mentioned that your spouse or common law partner can also apply for an open work permit once yours is approved.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting. They don't necessarily have to apply for the same type of work permit as you.
Wait, really?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, you're a software developer applying for an open work permit,
Okay.
and your partner is a talented chef who wants to open their own restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't be limited to just finding a job in tech just because you are.
Oh, wow. They could apply for an open work permit that aligns with their culinary skills, giving
Mhm.
them the freedom to pursue their own career path in Canada.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty
It
cool.
allows both partners to chase their dreams and contribute to the Canadian economy in their own special way.
Mm-hmm.
No one has to feel like they're sacrificing their own career aspirations.
Exactly. And it promotes economic independence within families,
Yeah,
which is so important for their overall well-being.
absolutely. It's all about giving families the tools they need to thrive together.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've covered spouses and partners, but what about kids?
Right.
We mentioned briefly that they can go to school without a separate study permit, but what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, so as we said, dependent children who are in elementary or secondary school,
Mhm.
so kindergarten through grade 12, can attend school in Canada without needing a separate study permit.
Okay.
They can just enroll in the local school
Yeah.
system, just like Canadian children.
That's such a relief for families.
Yeah. You
No extra paperwork or stressful application processes.
they just show up and start learning.
Pretty much. It really simplifies the whole transition and lets families focus on settling into their new life in Canada.
Okay, now what if the kids aren't already in Canada with their parents?
Hmm.
Let's say the whole family's planning to relocate altogether.
In those cases, the parents can apply for a study permit for their children so they can join them in Canada and start school.
Awesome.
It's all part of Canada's goal of keeping families together.
It's really heartwarming to see how this policy considers the needs of the whole family.
It is.
It paints such a welcoming picture of Canada.
It does. It really reflects a deep understanding that supporting families is essential to attracting and retaining top talent from around the world.
Yeah, it's like a welcome to Canada package for the whole family.
Exactly.
But, as much as we're both gushing about this policy, I think it's important to acknowledge that moving to a new country, even one as welcoming as Canada, can come with its own set of challenges.
You're absolutely right. While Canada offers so many incredible opportunities, it's important to go in with realistic expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Things like finding a good place to live, figuring out the healthcare system, and adapting to a new culture can take some time and effort.
Yeah, it's important to be prepared for those hurdles and not get discouraged if things don't fall into place right away.
Right.
But even with those challenges, this new open work permit policy seems like a pretty remarkable opportunity for people who want to build a new life in Canada.
It really is. It opens up so many doors for individuals and families.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget the ticking clock. This policy is a limited time offer.
That's right.
It's only in effect until December 31st, 2024.
So don't wait until the last minute to get everything organized.
Right.
If you're serious about exploring this opportunity, the time to act is now.
Absolutely. Start gathering your documents, double check your passport expiry date, and start looking into the different paths available to you.
Yeah, don't let this incredible opportunity pass you by.
And remember, we're here to help guide you through the process.
That's right.
In our final segment, we're going to tackle some of the most common questions and concerns about the application process itself.
Okay.
We'll give you some practical tips and insights to help you navigate the system smoothly and hopefully boost your chances of success.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Canada's new open work permit policy. We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
Yeah, we really have, from eligibility and family benefits to the application process itself.
Mm-hmm. And now we're going to tackle some of the more nitty-gritty details of actually submitting your application.
Exactly. We're going to address common questions and concerns and offer some tips for navigating the system smoothly.
One thing that always makes me a little bit nervous is the idea of submitting an online application, especially for something as important as immigration.
Yeah.
It can feel a little daunting if you're not super tech savvy.
Yeah.
Is it actually user-friendly, or are we talking about a digital maze here?
Well, I think you'll be glad to hear that the IRCC website is actually designed to be really user-friendly.
Right.
They've really tried to make the whole process as intuitive as possible.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
But what if you hit a snag or have a question in the middle of filling out the application?
Yeah.
Is there any support available?
Absolutely. The IRCC has a really comprehensive help section on their website with frequently asked questions and detailed instructions.
Okay.
And if you need more personalized assistance, you can always contact their call center or use their online web form to submit a query.
Okay, so there are resources to help you troubleshoot along the way.
Exactly.
That definitely makes me feel a bit better. But what about processing times? I
Right.
imagine people are on the edge of their seats waiting to hear back.
I know the waiting game can be tough. Processing times do vary depending on a few factors like the volume of applications they're receiving and how complex your individual case is.
Hmm.
But in general, the IRCC aims to process most applications within a reasonable time frame.
Is there any way to get at least like a ballpark estimate of how long it might take? Just to manage expectations.
Yeah, actually there is. The IRCC website has a really handy tool where you can estimate processing times based on the type of application you're submitting and your country of origin.
Oh, that's really helpful.
Yeah, it is.
No more nail biting and endless guessing games.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about something that can be a bit of a mystery. The possibility of being asked for additional documents. You mentioned this earlier, but I think it's worth digging into a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. It's important to remember that while the basic document requirements are pretty straightforward, the IRCC might ask for some extra documents to double check certain parts of your application.
Okay, so what kind of extra documents might they ask for? Just so people can be prepared.
Well, it really depends on your individual situation. For example, they might ask for proof of funds to show that you can financially support yourself in Canada.
No.
Or they might request police certificates from any country where you've lived for more than 6 months in the past.
So it's all about making sure you have all your ducks in a row.
Exactly. Better to be over-prepared than scrambling at the last minute.
Good advice. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to address the elephant in the room, the possibility of rejection. It's probably on everyone's mind. What happens if your application isn't approved?
It's a valid concern, and honestly, rejection is always a possibility in any application process.
Right.
But here's the important thing. If your application is refused, the IRCC will give you a detailed explanation of why.
Okay, so you get actual feedback on what went wrong.
Exactly. And depending on the reason for the refusal, you might be able to reapply with a stronger application that addresses those concerns.
So it's not necessarily the end of the road.
Nope, there's still hope.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, immigration processes can be complicated and sometimes it just takes a little bit of persistence and fine-tuning to reach your goals. So don't get discouraged if you hit a bump in the road.
Well said. So as we come to the end of our deep dive, I think it's safe to say that this new open work permit policy is a pretty amazing opportunity for a lot of people who are hoping to make Canada their new home.
I agree. It really is. It's a strong sign of Canada's dedication to welcoming skilled workers from all over and building a diverse and thriving society.
And for those of you who are ready to grab this opportunity, remember the deadline is December 31st, 2024.
Don't wait too long.
So don't put it off. Start your research, get your documents together, and get ready for this exciting new adventure.
It could be the beginning of a fantastic new chapter in your life.
We really hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and the inspiration you need to take that next step. Best of luck on your journey.